I'm Justin Gaar, and I'm the director of Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs. I think I make films because I really love imagery and photography and cinematography. I always have been drawn to that. And I also get really obsessed with stories. I don't just read an article or hear a story. That if it hits me, I get in there and I look at it from a bunch of different angles, and I get really interested in the motivations of the story and the nuance of the story. And that also is probably one of the reasons why I really love history. And through history, I love the history of music, so I love music. So filmmaking allows me to combine sort of all my manic obsessions. I don't know that I could name my greatest filmmaking influence. I made this movie because of a book I read, actually, John Steinbeck's Cannery Row, which is about Monterey, the same city that we shot this movie in. It's about fringe characters sort of in the margins of Monterey society in the 40s. And that book, when I read it, I was like, oh, this potentially is similar to the way Cristo is sort of marginal in Monterey life. So that influenced me to make the movie. And then there's a bunch of other movies I could name, I guess, that off the top of my head that really influenced the film. Also Werner Herzog. I asked myself pretty early on after I met Cristo, he was telling me all about UFOs, and he was just a wild guy. I was thinking am I really gonna pursue this story? This seems insane. And then I was talking to my friend, and I remember saying, what would Herzog do? And I know that he would go after such a weird story, so I did. And you get to watch it now. I started making movies in 5th grade with my best friend, and it was entirely an excuse to play with fire. We had lined a model airplane with bottle rockets and fuses, really wanted to blow it up, and my friend Mike Chilson had his family's video camera, and we were going to videotape it, and he decided it'd be cool to add more of a storyline to it. So we got some G.I. Joes and a Gumby doll, and we ended up making a stop animation. And that was the first movie I ever made. And we made more movies together, as kids, and eventually matured to making movies beyond just burning things on camera. And so that's what set me down the path of becoming a filmmaker. I don't know what I find sacred about my filmmaking. Maybe nothing? Maybe nothing is sacred about my filmmaking, and that's what's sacred. I don't know. That's a bad answer, but I don't know. I guess my work expresses my perspective of the world through my affinity for the underdog. I grew up in Alabama in the Deep South, and one thing I noticed growing up was that a lot of Southern stories and narratives, all the imagery is it's pretty cliche. It's the same sort of recycled cliche narratives and imagery and characters, and that didn't make sense to me. Even Southerners who tell these stories, but Southerners recognize themselves in these cliches, and I always thought that was bizarre because I didn't find myself in these cliches. I didn't find my friends in these cliches. I looked at the world around me, and I didn't see some of the weirder, outsider kind of people that I recognize as being these great human beings, represented in these Southern stories. My mom was also a social worker, so I went into a lot of third world type places in poor Alabama. And I humanized these people that society didn't really talk about. So I guess I've always been drawn to being really open and honest about exploring humanity and those people and those the marginalized people that don't get talked about, or the outsider who's weird that goes up against the world despite the consequences. I always love those stories. So maybe that's how my work sort of reflects my worldview. I think every filmmaker should see Fitzcarraldo. It's Werner Herzog's movie about a guy who his dream is to he's in the Amazon, his dream is to take the opera to the Amazon. So he becomes a robber baron in order to gain enough wealth to pay for the opera to be brought to the Amazon jungle. And in the course of the movie, he at one point he has this plan, go down one river and then come up another river. In order to do that, he has to transport his entire steamship over a mountain. And it's such an insane, beautiful movie. But I think that anyone who watches that needs to also watch the documentary called Burden of Dreams about Herzog making that movie, where he basically lives as the exact subject of his movie, because he has to actually transport the boat over the mountain. And like, they got attacked by Amazonian Indians at one point in time, and I think some crew members died, and it was just this total ordeal. And so it's like life imitating art, in that like he actually has to live, I mean, it's not even imitating, he is living his subject's life in order to make this movie about his subject. It's amazing. It's like in tandem, they're just an incredible watch, and I think that any filmmaker should have to watch those. I'm Justin Gaar, director of Curse of the Man Who Sees UFOs. Join me at Joshua Tree International Film Festival, September 16th through 18th. For more information, go to jtiff.org or click on the link below.